this video, I'm going to cover the 5 mistakes that business owners most commonly make and how you can avoid them. So let's go. Starting with policies and contracts. I completely get it. When you're starting a business, you're thinking about getting customers, getting your product out there. These are your focuses. Writing employment contracts, writing employment policies clearly are not top of the agenda. I really do understand that. And we see so many business owners who know that's what they need to do. And by the time they call me, it's, well, I've been thinking about this for 2 years. It's been on the to-do list. I haven't quite got around to it. But now this crisis has happened and we can't deal with it because we don't have the right employment contracts in place. And that's heartbreaking because I know now that this business owner is really stuck trying to solve a problem that isn't their main focus of trying to get customers and serve those customers. So getting your employment contracts in place is really important. It gives you a base to be able to deal with things. It sets expectations with your team. It shows people what you expect of them, what they'll get in return, and means that you're covered if you need to deal with something like excessive absence, taking holiday that they're not entitled to, perhaps a deduction from wages, somebody who's left and not returned equipment, all of these things. It's really important that you've got those in place, and we've got more videos that go into detail around contracts, handbooks, why you need them, why they're so important, and actually how you write them as well. Number 2, dismissing without a proper process. What feels fair to you, what you think is doing the right thing, may not be fair in legal terms. If you're dismissing somebody, fair, how you treat somebody, must be in line with how an employment tribunal would define fair. And again, I've got videos where I go into more detail around disciplinary process, dismissal, how you do this. One of the things that we see most commonly is somebody will come to me because they've dismissed, they thought they were doing the right thing, they thought they were doing it fairly. The ex-employee has now complained, perhaps even gone to ACAS to start that employment tribunal process. I'm looking at it and saying, oh, you didn't do this, or you did that and you should have done that, or you didn't consider that maybe this was a disability and therefore you needed to get medical evidence, for example. These things are really important. So what feels fair to you might not be what an employment tribunal thinks is fair, and that can really cost you if somebody is to bring an employment tribunal claim. Number 3, not tackling discrimination and harassment. Now, you might be thinking this isn't happening in my business. If you haven't got a process by which people can tell you about it, you're not necessarily going to know that it's happening. People don't often have the confidence to report things like discrimination, harassment, unless they're really encouraged to or really believe that that particular person is going to take seriously their complaint. So many people who do experience discrimination or harassment will have in the past experienced reporting it and it not being taken seriously, or they'll have heard stories about people reporting it and it not being taken seriously, so they won't report it. Make sure you've got a process so that you know what's happening, you know that people can report it, and you'll find out about things quickly. I dealt with a client a few years ago now, but employee was having, every Wednesday they were calling in sick. The client started to deal with this as a sickness absence issue. They're thinking nobody's sick every Wednesday. They must be lying. They must be doing something else. And they treated it in that way. When we started to investigate it with the individual, what we found out is that they were being harassed by the delivery driver that was turning up every Wednesday. And instead of reporting it, they just called in sick because they were too scared to come to work. As soon as the client found out about it, they were able to contact the company the delivery driver came from, tell them not to send him again, protect their employee, and solve the absence issue. But without that person being able to report that they were being harassed, they just went off sick, and that caused far greater problems because they lost that person for a whole day as a result of this one small action. So absolutely take discrimination, harassment seriously. Make sure people know they can report it, encourage them to report it, remind them they'll be taken seriously, and make sure that when they do report it, you do take them seriously, because that's what really matters, and people will hear about how you treated it this time as to whether or not they can report it again. If you want to make sure that you're not the business owner that's making these mistakes, that you're getting things right and you're hearing about the updates as and when they happen, subscribe to our channel, hit the notifications bell, and make sure that you don't miss a video. Number 4, not documenting sickness absence. Or any absence, unplanned absences we're really talking about here, because unplanned absences are disruptive. What I find is I get a call from a business owner and they tell me they're absolutely frustrated. This person has called in sick again, and they've called me today because they cannot believe they've taken another phone call. They're having to pick up this person's work, they're having to deal with it, and they want to know how to solve it. Of course they do. The first question I ask is, okay, can you tell me their record? Can you tell me how many days they've had off sick? How long each of those periods were? What the actual reason for the absence is? And so often there isn't a record of these things. The business owner might be able to remember some of it, but not all of it. There might be mixed in there some time off for dependents. Perhaps their children have been ill, or they've been ill, or it's a doctor's appointment. All of these things are kind of being mixed together, and we can't break it down. This makes it almost impossible to deal with a sickness absence. We have to start from scratch at that point. So always document sickness absence right from day one. Even if you think this person, they won't be sick again, this is just a one-off, make sure you've got a record of it. Make sure you've got a record of when they called in sick, how many days they were off absence for, and the exact reason for their absence. That's the only way that you can deal with it. Number 5, this is really important to your productivity and therefore your profitability as a business. And this is not setting performance expectations. Huge mistake. If you have not got performance expectations, people don't know what they're doing. They don't know what good looks like. They don't know what they're striving for, and therefore you're not going to get the best out of people. Even if it feels like people might be doing a good job and you're happy with things and how they're going, they could be doing better if you were setting really clear performance objectives. And if you've got somebody who isn't performing, that person that's kind of frustrating, you feel like, oh, they just don't do what I really want them to be doing, or I thought they would do it like this and they did it like that, and you're not setting performance objectives, how do they know? How do they know how they should perform? How do you know that they're not performing? Yeah, you can feel it, but objectively, in a way that a tribunal would consider fair, how do you know they're not performing? When you've got those expectations, A, people are more likely to perform, and B, if they're not performing, you can deal with it much, much easier, making a dismissal much fairer, or indeed being able to actually get them back on track because you can see what's going wrong. So those are my 5 key mistakes I see business owners make and how you can solve them. I've got more videos that go into detail on all of these topics, so subscribe to my channel to make sure you don't miss a video. And if you've got questions, pop them in the comments below and I will answer them, maybe even use it to do a video in future.